When I started university, I of course knew that my chances of getting a job really weren't all that good. I had these high aspirations, but the number of vertebrate paleontology positions in all of Canada was 2. There were courses on paleontology at the University of Toronto where I did my undergraduate degree, and it was wonderful actually because there were some very well-known vertebrate paleontologists working both at the university and at the Royal Ontario Museum. They were also working both in geology and in biology, so I could take courses in both departments or in both institutions. So I probably got the best education you could possibly get as a paleontologist by staying in Toronto. Nevertheless, I decided that I would go to Montreal for my graduate degrees, and the reason for that was that the paleontologists who worked in Toronto were working mostly on groups of animals that didn't really have my interest, fossil mammals, for example. Whereas if I went to Montreal, I could work with Bob Carroll, who was working on fossil reptiles, and I thought that would probably give me a better background for working on dinosaurs. Now, most people tend to think of dinosaurs as reptiles anyway, but the kinds of reptiles I worked on in Montreal were much smaller and much older than dinosaurs. So although it wasn't really dinosaurs I did my graduate work on, nevertheless it was close to dinosaurs. It gave me certain techniques that I wouldn't have got anywhere else in probably North America at the time. When I set out to do my graduate degrees, there were only 2 positions in all of Canada for people working on dinosaurs, and both those positions were occupied by people who were young enough that I knew they weren't going to retire for a long time. Nevertheless, I decided that I would go through with my goal and try to become a dinosaur paleontologist, even if I didn't get a job as a dinosaur paleontologist. I thought I'd probably end up teaching in a college or a high school for a long time, perhaps biology, perhaps geology, and if I was really lucky, paleontology. However, luck seemed to be going in my favor because when I was at McGill University, I got a call one day from one of my professors back at the University of Toronto, and he said, do you know that there's a paleontology position opened up in Edmonton at the Provincial Museum of Alberta, and maybe you should apply. So I applied for it. I did not expect to get the job. I expected that I would have an opportunity to fly out there and see Alberta for the first time, because I hadn't seen it yet, and took a holiday at the same time to go to Dinosaur Park and all those wonderful places. But I didn't expect to get the job because I was up against people who were more highly qualified than me. At that stage, I had finished my master's degree and just started my PhD, but I still had several years to go before I would finish my PhD. And so on paper, I really didn't stand a chance. But it was very funny because when I walked into the room for the interview, suddenly Phil Currie, the student, disappeared, and Phil Currie, the person who really wanted the job, reappeared. And at the end of the interview, I just kind of shook my head and wondered who that person was who had done the interview, because it sure didn't seem like me. There was something that clicked in my mind and said, you know, this is the job you wanted since you were a kid. This is exactly the job you want. It's in Alberta, it's working on dinosaurs, and it's yours. And when I walked out of the room, I felt there's no chance I'm going to get this job, but boy, that was a good interview. And as it turned out, I did get the job. And the reason was that although there were people much more qualified than me, they already finished their PhDs and everything else, nevertheless, I was the only one who really wanted to work on dinosaurs. Those other people wanted to work on other things. And of course, at that stage in time, people were thinking, well, Alberta is most famous internationally for its dinosaurs. We need somebody to work on dinosaurs. And I made the most convincing case that I really wanted to work on dinosaurs.